Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Sales. I'm Ashleigh Early.
And I'm Ryan Woodard.
And I am so excited because today we are joined like Brynne Tillman. Brynne is the LinkedIn whisperer and the CEO of Social Sales Link. She is on a mission to help sales professionals use LinkedIn authentically and effectively to start meaningful conversations. So it is about to get social up in here. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Ashleigh, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Great. So for people who are not following you on LinkedIn, they're missing out. Like, honestly, like I know I say like, oh my gosh, you have to follow. No, seriously, like Brynne stuff is amazing. I've been slightly stalking you for I think a little over a year at this point. So I was really excited. We get to have you on today. And what I love is so much of your content is really frontline. Like here's kind of how to do this, very actionable, direct, to the point, and all comes from experience. So I'm super curious, like how did you become the LinkedIn whisperer? Because I still can't even make sense of it. And apparently, like I got some award this year from LinkedIn on being good at it. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Wow. I haven't gotten an award from LinkedIn yet. So that's awesome.
I'm pretty convinced they just pulled my name out of a hat and we're like, yes.
That's awesome. Well, take it any way you can.
You.
I'm a recovering sales trainer. So my whole life has been a producer, a mentor, a coach, a trainer from a sales perspective, not the marketing or content perspective.
Mm-hmm.
When I found LinkedIn, and that's what I called it for 6 months, no joke, which was, over a dozen years ago or longer now. I lost count. Very long time. I think 2008, I started teaching LinkedIn.
Nice.
I recognized that it solved the biggest problem for me in sales and sales training. But in sales, what I hated the most was the cold call. Once I had a conversation with someone who was interested in talking with me, it was great. But getting to hello was the hardest part, right? That was the challenge. That was the struggle. So I had a situation years before where I was sitting across from a client staring at their overflowing Rolodex. You guys know what a Rolodex is?
Oh yeah, I had one.
Oh, yeah.
You did?
I've got a couple grays here. Okay. I'm not.
He's got some grays, and my dad was a sales rep. So he literally gave me his old Rolodex and I added all my friends to it and played with it. It was like a thing.
Okay. Well, yeah. So LinkedIn is our Rolodex, right? That's all of it's a dynamic Rolodex. But the magic of the Rolodex is the ability to search and filter it on LinkedIn. But I was sitting across from this client, staring at his Rolodex, thinking if I could get my hands on that for 20 minutes, I could identify who he knew that I wanted to meet and ask him for referrals, because referrals was how I was really growing my business. But you couldn't do that. That was obnoxious in 1992, right? Like you couldn't do that. But today we can. It's actually appropriate, right? On LinkedIn, we can search and filter our connections to identify who they know that we're looking to meet and leverage that for introduction. So when I saw that it solved the biggest problem I had with sales, I gravitated to immediately. And it was very early on in LinkedIn. So I really got to learn the navigation of LinkedIn, which can be confusing. All right. And as they had rollouts, I was very fortunate to be part of a group of folks that would look at rollouts before they'd happen or look at new features and be part of, little like focus groups. And so very early on, I was connected to the people, that product development and other folks. So I got to really not only see it coming up, but I think even help with the slight help, but with the direction of some products. And really, it's become what I think is the most powerful sales tool available to us today.
Yeah, I've used it pretty handedly. It's helped me kind of like grow my brand and also connect with people in a meaningful way. It kind of like allows you even for those cold calls, because you mentioned that, and I'm a big proponent of cold calling. It kind of allows you to kind of like preheat the cold call a little bit, so it's not completely a brick. Maybe since you're the whisperer, any like tips or tricks or anything that you like to do in that regard, or something that you think like every rep should be doing if they're not already?
Yeah. So if you love the cold call, if you infuse a little bit of LinkedIn to it, as you say, we can warm this up, we can make it a little more relevant. So we start with the pre-call planning, right? What are we doing before this call? Sometimes we'll look at this and go, we call it 2 by 2, find 2 things in under 2 minutes that you can use to build rapport. So that. It could be shared connections and a group that you're both in. It could be a college that they went to that your best friend went to. It could be an article that they shared that you love, because you can use that to build rapport, right? What's the content they share? And I say, hey, I noticed you shared a Brene Brown post, right? Or whatever that is, right? These are things that we can do to warm up the call. Now, I don't ever cold call. I make sure that I'm engaging on LinkedIn, because almost every single call that I have is scheduled. So, and I can have 3, 4, 5 a day, but it starts from conversations on LinkedIn. Now, I know that there are a lot of call centers out there, and there are a lot of SDRs and BDRs that are out there that are required to make so many calls. But I do believe that we're moving toward a hybrid of, we're calling, but we've already engaged. They already know our name. We've already maybe even shared some great content, and we've let them know that we're going to be reaching out to them in the next couple of days. Is there a particular time that works best for them? And when we can do this, the success rate of them taking our call is significant. So that's my approach to that. There's also a lot of social listening. What's happening in their industry? Who are the clients that they serve? So for example, I had a client that sold software. So I didn't know much about their software. It was a prospect. They're now a client, but it was a prospect that sold software. And I didn't know much about the software that they sold. And when I got on their website, it just was over my head. So what I did is I jumped in to look at their client testimonials to see who do they serve. And they served the logistics companies that had big truck fleets that they needed to manage. Who was driving, how many miles, where are they going, when is the next, like all that. That's what their software did. So when I reached out to them, I did some research to see what logistics companies were facing in today's marketplace. And instead of talking about me or what I did, or even what they do, which is software, I had information and content around what was going on in their client's industry. So I started a conversation. So I did some social listening first. So they took my call and I said, hey, I came across this article. I thought it was really valuable because A, B, and C. Let me know if you're interested. I'm happy to send it to you. And I backed off. So they had to respond. I did not just send it. It was permission to send it. So it's the way, you can't have a one-way conversation. That's not a conversation. It's a pitch. It's it's just not a conversation. So they had to say, yes, please. So I sent it. And then I did a poll that I asked them to engage on. And then I said, I'd love to jump on a call and understand from your perspective what you're seeing in the logistics area, not even their area. And we had a conversation and ultimately bridged it over time. We slowed down the outreach to speed up the outcome, because then I said, well, how are you reaching these logistics people today? Right. And that's how I bridged it back to how I could help. But ultimately, I had 4 or 5 or 6 engagements before I ever mentioned how we could help them.
I think I love this idea of social listening, because that's something that I think a lot of people, and especially if you're in a company that maybe doesn't have a lot of time to train you, or you're kind of expected to figure it out, sort of school of learning sales, which is really common. It's really easy to think like I probably get 1 or 2 messages at least a month, or they just thought, I see you went to Santa Clara University, go Broncos. Help? Yeah. No, that's not building rapport. That tells me you scroll down to the bottom and just picked my school and then looked up what the logo is or who our mascot was. Super useless. But the social listening is a really important, I think, factor that a lot of people miss out on. Like if you take 2 minutes to exactly what you said, figure out, okay, who are my clients? Who do they care about? And therefore, kind of by extension, what do I care about? Versus just, do you want more clients? Yes, I want more clients. Everyone wants more clients. That's not the point.
Right.
It's like asking yourself, do you want more money? Of course I want more money. What are you using it for?
Yeah. And I like to say we need to treat the people on the other side of the message the same way we would if they were on the other side of the table. Right?
Yeah.
Like these are human beings that we'd have conversations with, and we would not sit at a table at a networking event or a trade show or a conference and walk up to them and say, hey, I'm Brynne Tillman. I help companies just like you do this, 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 and this. You wouldn't do that. Or I wouldn't say, hey, I love your suit. We help companies do this, this, and this, right? Like, because that's what the fake compliments are. And that's what, oh, I found your profile so intriguing. I respond to everyone and I say, oh, what was it that intrigued you? And I get nothing. So
I used to ask what connections we have in common, because I said we have mutual connections. I'd be like, which ones?
Right. Which ones do you know?
Do you know? Are you just throwing out names of other major big names? And congratulations, Jeff. Any idea how many people John Barrows is connected with, and Jeff Gitmer, and all the
right?
Nah, nice try.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's been one company that's been targeting me, and like I finally was like, do you guys have a CRM? Because every like month it's a new SDR, and
right. So they're
kind of getting exhausted here.
That's hysterical. I had an outreach maybe a week ago where the first question was, I'm just curious, do you work on commission only, or do you pay your sales reps? So I said, why do you ask? Like, I'm just curious. And I thought maybe who knows, maybe he wants to work for me. I don't know, right? I don't know. Why do you ask? And then the response back was, do you have a website? Because we only work with people with websites. And I went, this is automation. So I responded back, if you took 2 seconds to look at my profile, you could find my website, and you could say, I visited your website and I noticed you have a pretty decent about page, but there's none of this, right? Specific. If you want to work with me, I've got some ideas for you. Are you open? Sure. Yep. Right. And so at the end of the day, and there was such a disconnect. So I said that in my message, and he responded, I'm just trying to teach my VAs how to outreach, and you're not being very helpful. I'm like, you're pitching me, bud. Like, it was interesting. So, I mean, this is a real problem in LinkedIn, that people, there's a lot that's broken in LinkedIn. And I think the biggest one is the connect and pitch.
No, you hit a nail on the head there that I think makes this really hard. And it's why I get really kind of personally offended. I have to kind of check myself when I see people doing bad outreach. I'm not mad at the VAs. I'm not mad at the SDRs, but I'm mad at people trying to hack the system. I am all for growth hacking. I am all for trying to get working efficiently as possible. You cannot automate prospecting. You cannot automate relationship building. The moment you try to do that, yes, you will get some business, but it's not the business that's going to grow and sustain long term. And the people that are investing heavily in automation to grow their businesses are, in my experience, pretty much without exception, borderline con artists who are just trying to grab as much as they can with automation, investing as little as possible, make some cash, and then get out and move on to the next business, quote unquote, venture. And those are always going to happen. But you cannot take content and strategies and tips from those businesses and from that model, because that model is by designed to burn out. But what it does is that cycle, which will always be present as like the dark underbelly of our profession, makes good tactics like using LinkedIn inbox to prospect much harder, because you have to make really clear you are not a robot and you are not connecting and pitching. And you have to make that very clear very quickly.
I don't do any cold. I would never get into an inbox, almost never. I should never say never, but I will almost never go cold. I will have already engaged, or they will have come referred by a shared connection, or like it's, and although I have a ton of templates, I tell everyone you need to tailor every template. Tailor every template. The template is your starting point, right? And we've got to also bring value. We have to earn the right to get these conversations.
Yes.
And we can't assume a great pitch is going to get us there. So and automation doesn't do it. And also automation will get you shut down. But you would never send a robot to a networking meeting with your business cards, right?
We might have to with Omicron now.
Right. But
those little robots with the iPads.
Yeah, the ones in the grocery store now that walk around. I don't know if you have those, but we have those. You're also starting every relationship off with a lie. There are some companies, and it nauseates me, but there are some companies that have fake profiles for all their mass prospecting. It's not even a real human being. It's a made up name. They Googled a picture of a pretty girl and they stuck it there. They gave her a college and a history at work. And then they're out there using this as a first point of contact so that if it gets shut down, it doesn't hurt the rest of the team.
Yep.
So everything is a lie. I mean, if you start, could you imagine you bring on a client that's worth $250,000 and they find out it started with a lie?
Yep.
It's so, and automation is a lie.
No, and there are things that can be automated and there are things that can't. Like
marketing.
Yeah. Well, no, I'll be honest. I use a little bit of automation for LinkedIn. I do, but I know, but I use it very strategically for we used some automation with our sales census to try and get the word out to more people. So because I just didn't have the time to be sending out 50 invites a day. So I used a little bit of automation with a template to get the word out on those. I've used automation before to do likes and views on profiles to help warm things up in addition to comments. I use it lightly, but
but you've now gotten someone to believe that you viewed their profile because they think they mattered to you and you liked that profile. And it's like, you're on match.com and you have someone else going through and saying, oh, he's cute. Oh, he's cute. Now you go out on a date and he thinks you thought he was cute, but you didn't, somebody else did.
No,
right?
This is the trick though. I'm only using it on pre-built lists of prospects.
Doesn't matter. Okay. I won't judge.
This is the whole point of the conversation. Like it's interesting. I don't mind, like, convince me I'm wrong, sort of thing. So for me,
LinkedIn is about relationships. You walk into a conference and everyone in that conference is a potential lead to you. You're not going to just like walk around and go, hi, I'm Ashleigh. Here's my card. I'm going to take your card. Here's my card. I'm going to take. You are going to have conversations with these people, and it's just inauthentic. And I really want to make sure that we bring authenticity back to that I honestly looked at your profile, and when I endorsed you for something or when I engaged on your content, I meant it. When we have a conversation and they say, well, what did you like about my content? I want that to be real. I don't want to say, well, my automation did it, right? Like, to me, it's about bringing authenticity. And I have in the past tried automation a long time ago. I got shut down, and that's the other piece is we're breaking the user agreement 8.2.2 that can get you shut down. And I know folks have been shut down permanently. So it's also wrong because LinkedIn asks us not to do it. And I think the automation part just takes away from the relationship building piece. Now I have automation in my world. We have Kajabi email. If they click on something, they get tagged. Like but people expect email to be automated. Like there's not an expectation of relationship. It's not really personal. They know that it's a newsletter that came out. I never try to fake, we purposefully make our emails newsletter looking, because I want them to know it's a newsletter, that I'm not trying to pretend it's a one-on-one message. Because at the end of the day, it's really about the relationships. That's what creates real long-term business. And I would never want to get back to someone that the engagement I had with them was with an automation bot.
Yeah, that makes sense.
No, it totally makes sense. To kind of be a little to clarify intent. I agree with you on everything you said. What I've found is using automation on viewing profiles increases the number of people that accept my invites who are at ICP, which is a very targeted thing. I do small sprints of 100 to 150 people, but then it frees me up with time to build that list intentionally and frees up time so I can do specific one-to-one messaging that is completely based on my research that I've done for them and is hyper tailored. That was the only way I found that I could really get a good ROI on it. That's the best thing I found that works, at least so far. It's like how I made this one little piece of it.
Today, if you look at more than 20 profiles within a couple of minutes, you'll get shut down.
Yeah, no, I've got it set up. So it's got very, very strict rules on it. So
yeah, but for that, if you're going to send a message anyway, you're going to look at their profile. So you don't need the automation piece.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, look, you can do whatever, you run your world, you run your business. I think it's absolutely the wrong thing to do. Whether you agree with the relationship piece or not, the risk of being shut down is enough for me to say don't do it.
No, and that's fair. And it's a delicate line to walk. It's definitely not one to mess with if you don't know what you're doing, for sure.
I'm going to officially say don't do it. To everyone listening, don't do it.
No, and Brynne is absolutely the expert in this space too. So I'm going to be going and reevaluating things.
I have to say, I have no bone in this fight or dog in this fight. Is that whatever it is? But either way, you understand what I'm getting at. But I have
a bone to pick or a dog in the fight.
Dog in the fight. I've never used LinkedIn automation. Just throwing that out there. Sorry to abandon you, Ashleigh.
Officially, so they don't hear this and shut me down.
No, but I really haven't. It's just been one area that I didn't feel like automation worked very well, and the inauthenticity of it resonates a little bit with me. But I also understand, being efficient and time efficiency, and if somebody sees that they can.
I ask you, Ryan, you like cold calling? Do you like robocalls?
No.
Does anyone answer? I don't even understand robocalls. Right?
Yeah, I had an organization that tried monster calls where a bunch of people call and then they connect you once they reach somebody.
And you go, beep.
Yeah, I just prefer to do it, do it ourselves. I've came up with a playbook for cold call outreach that it automates the sequence and the
I love Cadence, like Sales Loft or Social Cycle. I love those. I love Cadence.
But they have to do the LinkedIn activity themselves. It won't automate that. So
there's a wonderful company, Social Cycle, that just does LinkedIn workflow.
Nice.
Yeah, and Sales Loft does that. There's a whole bunch of other companies that really focus on cadence and workflow. I think that's brilliant. I mean, otherwise you lose track of everyone you're working with. So I'm a big fan of that.
And then my team, we usually, our marketing automation, our marketing system, we report to marketing. So I feel like there's just a little more, it's a little more sophisticated on how we move potential interest into MQL and then getting that to an SQL. We kind of look at it as anybody that's interested in Edify is a precious egg. And we have our part in carrying that egg through the customer experience to make it engaging and understand like what their needs are each step of the way. So they get like not just engagement, but the right engagement at the right time. And since we've had buy-in to that process, it's like been miraculous to see the
There's
results.
a lot of magic between MQL and SQL, right? Like your MQL goes, okay, this is the right person that has an interest. Converting them to an SQL is where they really become a lead. Like I don't look at an MQL as a lead yet, even though it's in the name, right? But an MQL, to me, if you can convert that MQL to an SQL, now this is someone that I'd put in my pipeline. So I feel like MQL is pre-pipeline, even though a lot of companies don't look at it that way. But these are people that showed some kind of interest. Now the key when you reach out to them is like, I just downloaded an ebook, guys, leave me alone, right? Or whatever that MQL is, oh, they visited our website 3 times. They now qualify for a salesperson, right? We have to be careful that we don't make assumptions that they're interested in hearing our pitch because they visited our website 3 times. Many times they opened the website, it's on a tab, and it shows that they were there 3 times, but they just never really closed the tab, right? Like, let's think about all of these things that we get all excited that they're an MQL. What we do at that point, I think, is that's where we go into LinkedIn. We engage on their content. We learn about them. So by the time we reach out, they've pre-qualified themselves because in our mind, but that didn't make them a lead in their mind, right? Like let's be really clear, right? They check our boxes, but once they're in SQL, for me, we checked their boxes. Now they're interested in having conversation.
I think that's a really important point. Like we talk about buyer journey and we talk about funnel, and it's like those two things never match up immediately. That takes work. So the buyer's journey, like they're, kind of so early in it, it's like, I don't even accept that I have a problem. I was looking at any million other things tangential to what you do. And that's why a good marketing department will do things that get attention of people who are potentially good prospects, not necessarily just people who are like, oh, I need a solution for exactly what you do. Those are great. We love them when they come in. Those are golden eggs. They get the happy special treatment and they get accelerated through the process. But we don't make our money on golden eggs as salespeople. We make our money on the half-cracked eggs that come in and we stitch them back together and turn them into something by getting that funnel to align with the buyer's journey.
So that's brilliant. One of the things I learned years ago from a gentleman by the name of David Newman, who Do It Marketing, brilliant guy, taught me something that I now reteach, but I try to give him credit everywhere I can, is really good content talks to your buyer before they know they need you. So, right, think about that. Really good content talks to your buyer before they know they need you. So what are they Googling? What are they searching for? A step or 2 before you come into the process. And you should have, for me, it could be onboarding a new sales rep. They're not thinking about, I need LinkedIn training. But when you onboard a new sales rep, there are some things that you should be thinking about, like how are they represented? Google them. What do they look like? What does their LinkedIn profile look like? They're not actively thinking I need LinkedIn yet when they're onboarding, but they will. They're going to need it for prospecting. So where am I finding them in their journey? And am I getting them early enough? So there's a study that was done by Corporate Visions. That's 74% of buyers choose the sales rep that was first to add value and insight. So 3/4 of buyers, that was first.
I like it. Not first to respond, first to add value and insight.
Yes.
Right?
So that leads to exactly what you're saying, Ashleigh, right? Like, so what is it? They don't care about our stuff. They care about what their problem is. And if we are talking only about our stuff, we're probably getting them too late in the process. Yeah. So I love that.
So, and then you get into the fun stuff like, when do you walk away?
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Ryan.
I was going to say that's like one of the biggest challenges for like new sales development reps is trying to understand like when to walk away. I've had to kind of like listen. Well, I didn't have to kind of listen to calls. Listening to calls is my job. And so hearing some of my reps and then like their questions that they're asking, it's like you're putting your desire so much into this interaction. It ain't going nowhere. Like listen to what they said. They just signed a contract with a big competitor and it's a 2 to 3 year contract. Like unless the competitor just drops the ball and they can legally break contract, like good luck here. Like they're not even good luck, just like stop wasting resources. There's no point. Like admit defeat, lean in with it. Like, you know, it sounds like I was a day late, $1 short. I always ask, like, can I keep you in mind? Like, you know, I'm always like, I don't really like being that guy that just comes around when it's like, hey, time for a contract renewal. Do you mind if I keep you in mind for any like educational events and, you know, maybe cool stuff we have going on between now and then? And typically that's like one, it gives me a bucket of people to, you know, here's when the contract ends. Like I can throw them in some drip marketing campaign. I can keep them engaged for any kind of like speaker or book signing or wine tasting as we kind of like get closer to, again, warm them. So then when I do make that second cold call, it's not a frozen cold call. It's an, you know, it's got some, it's been in the microwave thawing for a little bit. So should be at least a good interaction.
And the point that you're educating them all the way through is going to plant some seeds, and they're going to see some gaps in their current contract. They're just going to see them. You're not pushing it down their throat. It's just through education. So that when it is time to renew, they are coming to you, and they probably won't shop you because you've brought enough value. So this is the other piece that I think is critical. And you know, you talk about the rep chomping on the bone, right? I won't let go of that bone, even though there's no meat on that bone. I refuse to let go of that bone. Bring it back to that, you know, the full circle back to the bone comment. But so there, the interesting thing is, there's probably 3 things I think. Number one, they're so excited they finally got someone to talk to them, because it's so hard to get that conversation. So we need to get to more conversations faster. And I think LinkedIn can help you do that by warming it up and them taking your call. So someone's talking to me, and until they hang up on me, I'm going to talk, because I have talk time, and they're going to see she spent 7 minutes on that call. That was great, right? Like, because we're measuring wrong things generally. So that's number one. Number two, we are so worried about the stats that, you know, whether it's every week or every month, that, you know, that go around and everybody sees, well, how many conversations did they have? Where is this? That I even see clients when we first start working with them where people are lying in the CRM just so that it looks better, right? So that their report, it doesn't help their wallet, it doesn't help the close, but, you know, so they're gonna try to make this what it is. But the third one, whether it's an SDR, BDR, or you know, a high level account rep in the field, the biggest problem we make is that we have a dollar amount placed on a prospect before we've ever had a first conversation. We go in there with an expectation, this account could be worth $222,000, and we haven't had a conversation yet. And when we go in with that, in the great words of Larry Levine from Selling from the Heart, they can smell commission breath even over Zoom, right? So we cannot enter these relationships with a dollar amount, or even this is what this prospect is worth to me. We need to enter these relationships with the mindset of earning the right to get the business, earning the right to continue the conversation. So we have to detach from what the prospect is worth to us and attach to what we are worth to the prospect. And that is my core belief. We spent like 2 weeks trying to get that verbiage down so that it was easy to understand. But the bottom line is they only hire you when you can help them. And you can only help them when you understand what their problems and their challenges are. And you can only help them when you really listen and detach from what it means to you as a salesperson. And I think it's really important to do that. Now, that's not really had anything to do with LinkedIn or social selling necessarily, but it is, really I think that authenticity in conversation that I really want to serve is important. The challenge typically are the KPIs that are laid out for the sales reps that don't necessarily match success. We've got these ridiculous indicators and, early indicators, lagging indicator, all these things, because we looked at a lot of data and this is what the data told us. But data doesn't measure relationships and rapport. Data doesn't do that. And I still think that there's a science, but there's such an emotional, relational piece that's not necessarily measurable. It is scalable. You can teach people to build rapport in an authentic way. You can teach people to be more curious if you reward the right things.
That's spot on. I mean, Bob, mic drop moment. I don't know if you want to drop that Blue Yeti. It's a nice mic, but
I love my Blue Yeti, my black Blue Yeti.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, we're twins.
Mine's buried
today.
down there. Our lovely podcast editor upgraded mine about a year ago. He's like, I'm sick of the Yeti. So he upgraded mine.
Ooh, well,
Yeah.
Fancy. The Yeti is just simple. The fact that you can just plug it in via USB to pretty much any computer and get pretty quality audio performance. That's where.
Let's just hope when the listeners are listening, they're like, Ashleigh sounds so much better than Ryan and Brynne.
Exactly. I've got my mixer and everything in the closet. So, and just one last thing for all you people that are trying to lie about your connections or qualifications. It's like going and playing golf and telling your friends that, I shoot like a +8 handicap. And then you get there and you're shooting like 110 once we get done with 18. That's way higher than +10, buddy. Could have warned me that it would have been a long day.
That's hysterical.
That's so great.
I love that. So, along with, we talked a little bit about what's right or wrong. There are a lot of things that salespeople are doing wrong. So we talked about the connect and pitch. That's totally bad. But another one is connect and forget.
Yes.
This is right. Like if we go to, it reminds me, we go to a trade show, we walk around, we have lots of conversations, we collect 87 cards, we go home, we put a rubber band around them and stick them in the corner of our desk. That's what we're doing with these LinkedIn connections. There's no point in just building a Rolodex of people that don't know who you are. So we want to slow it down, connect purposefully, and start real conversations with these folks. And just this mass connecting. One of the most frustrating things for me is LinkedIn has this whole people you may know, and then people go connect. I'm like, it's like going into this trade show and just throwing your business cards in the air, hoping some people are going to catch these. And it's such a problem. So I recommend right now, before you do any other activity, export your connections into an Excel spreadsheet, which everyone can do on the free, right? And start taking inventory. Who are you connected to? We call it conducting CPR on your network. So yeah, bringing life back into them, but it's identify your clients, your prospects, and your referral partners. CPR, clients, prospects, referral partners. Go through that, and who are we already connected to that we should be having conversations with? Because we're out there going net new, and never really leveraging the relationships that we already have. And people say, well, how do you do that? You haven't talked to them ever. Well, you reach out and they go, Ashleigh, we've been connected for some time on LinkedIn. And by the way, you can see, if you click on their contact information, at the very bottom, you'll see the date you connected. So I could say, Ashleigh, we've been connected since 2018, yet I don't think we've ever really had a conversation. I'm so interested in the work that you're doing around sales and in the world of business development. I'd love to learn a little bit more about what you're doing, share what I'm doing, and see if there's an opportunity for us to collaborate at one point. Something, network, right? Networking. What, just start a conversation, offer value, real value. You can invite them, but you have an event going on, and I reach out to all my VP of sales. So I do a search. You can do a search on your first degree connections too, even in the free.
Yep.
So I search all my VP of sales, and I say, Ashleigh, as a sales leader, I thought you might get some interest from a webinar that we're putting on in 2 weeks. This is the key, though. Here are some of the takeaways. If you're interested, let me know. I'll send you a link. Do not send the link before you have permission. 2 reasons. So I used to send the link without permission, and it worked okay. And then Andy Foote, who is a peer of mine in the world of social selling, called me out and said, "You're spamming. Even if they're first, it's spamming." And I go, "I don't think I'm spamming. It's working." Spamming. So we tested it. We A/B tested it. We sent 100 messages with the link, and we had 19 people click through. And I thought, he's wrong. This is good. 19 out of these are first degree connections. Then we sent 100 with the message with permission to name drop. 69 asked for it and 58 clicked through.
Good Lord.
It wasn't a little difference. So anything I say beyond that test now is conjecture, but this is what I think. 2 things happened. Number 1, there was FOMO, fear of missing out. Well, probably 3 things. So they did not feel spammed because I gave them an option. So now they're more open to me. Number 2, FOMO, fear of missing out. I don't have that link if I wanted to have that link, right? And number 3, I guess it's kind of like number 1, but I felt respected by you, right? Like I felt like you respected my inbox. So not only did you not spam me, but by you asking me permission, you go up a level in credibility in my mind. Now, all of that is conjecture. I don't know that's really what they thought, but the numbers were so huge between 19 and 69 responding, 58 clicking. There's one exception, but we don't send content without permission. Maybe there's 2 exceptions. The first exception is if we have a poll and we want someone to vote, we will send that directly, because at the bottom of the poll, there's a share button, but it pre-populates the poll inside of the message where they can do a 1-click vote. So I will send a message. I say, Ryan, as a podcast guru, I'd love your 1-click vote on a poll that we just put out on where do you get the most views, Apple, Spotify, right, whatever, right? Like, and then I send that to you. I'm not asking permission to send the poll because I love the way it populates inside of the message, and it's been successul. The second one
must be pretty low for podcasts. If I'm a guru, I'm just don't know.
You're awesome. I love it. The other one is their own content. And this has been a huge success, especially if you go after larger companies. And this is something that BDRs and SDRs are using like crazy to start conversations. So they'll Google their prospect and click on the news tab. Is there good PR out there? What's happening? And if there is, now they'll reach out and they'll say, Ashleigh, congratulations on the award. Congratulations on the LinkedIn award for being so fabulously amazing, right? But we Google it, and then, I could say, most sales leaders miss their own press. So I thought I'd send it to you, get it in front of you. And I send you your own content. The success rate of a conversation starting from that is enormous. They know that's not automated.
Yeah.
Right? They know that you took the time. And I might find an article for a big company and send it to 12 or 15 people inside that company.
I have to have my team try that out.
Don't do funding rounds, because everyone does funding rounds and people get sick of it. I say this
and people are crossing, yeah. But what you can do, right, is around funding rounds, there's typically press releases and other things that might happen around that. But I agree with you, because everyone is looking to get some of that money.
Trigger.
And so it does feel spammy. However, I'm going to throw something out. If you do a poll that's specifically for people that got funded, so you do a poll, and the poll is, as a newly funded organization, where do you see the priority, the money in priorities? Is it marketing? Is it hiring? Is it X or other sharing comments, right? So now I can reach out with them with a purpose, right? Like, congratulations on your funding. We're doing a little research on where people are putting the priorities of their money. So it's 3 things in other sharing comments, and now we can start a conversation around that. And it doesn't feel like I
love that, because you can target anyone who's gotten funding in the last 6 months.
absolutely.
So you just do that every 3-6 months, hit everyone who's gotten funding.
Every 2 weeks you can do another poll.
Well, yeah, every 2 weeks you could do another poll, but you could do that specific poll literally 3-4 times a year, and just a new batch of prospects.
And then you get on the call with them saying, "Hey, John, congratulations again on your funding. We appreciate you voting on the poll. We had 273 votes. If you're open, I'd love to share with you some of the insights on what your peers are doing with their funding." And now we can get a conversation around that.
We're going to have to slow you down, because you're going to give away all these tips for the game and how the game should be played. And we're going to have too much competition. And no, I'm joking. But
go to my YouTube channel. Look at it
there
all.
they go. There they go. We'll definitely include that in the show notes.
My podcast, Making Sales Social.
There you go. There you
I
go.
have to do it. Yeah.
We're going to transition and kind of switch things up a little bit and do
a little rapid fire.
Yeah, a little rapid fire for you to close this out. So, Brynne, what's your morning routine?
I love that question. The first thing I do when I get up is I hop on my my phone, my mobile app, and I look at all of my notifications and messages on the mobile app. And then for about a half hour, then I have an 8:30 call every single morning with my team.
I love it. All right, Brynne, pick one person who's had a significant impact on your career.
Oh my gosh, one person. Oh, there's so many. I'm going to go with Jeffrey Gitomer. He really got me thinking about the authenticity piece initially, years and years and years ago, and how it really is relationship, and how you really have to detach, and how you have to give, not to give to get. And so I think that foundationally changed the way I go to market.
I love it. What's your pump up song?
Queen, Don't Stop Me Now.
Yes. All right. What's one thing you wish you'd learned earlier?
That I'm okay the way I am, and I don't have to change to please other people.
Awesome. That's a great lesson to learn. I had to learn that one myself.
I'm still working on that lesson.
I feel like I'm still learning that every 6 months.
Yeah, we're always like constantly becoming the person we are, or something like that, or the person we want to be. What book has had the biggest impact on your sales career?
I have a couple. I would say Jeffrey Gitomer's Little Black Book of Networking. Keenan's Gap Selling. Very, very powerful for me. I can't leave out the Challenger Sale and the Challenger Customer.
So the Challenger Sales is on my desk as we speak. So
yeah. Oh my gosh. And Bob, this is huge. Bob Berg's Endless Referrals was a big one.
Awesome. All right. What's one way that someone could have been a better ally to you?
Interesting. I think professionally or personally, see, that's interesting because I go in two different directions. I think professionally, probably just letting me, long time ago in sales, letting me follow my heart in where I wanted to go with this LinkedIn thing versus this is a fad, stick with the sales training. You'll never make it. This will be gone in 2 years. You know, that was now 12 years ago. So it would have been nice to have had better support around LinkedIn for sales.
What's one way you're working to be a better ally for others?
I love that. I think trying to follow my 2 pieces of advice. The first one, detaching from what the prospect is worth to me and attaching to what I'm worth to them, and giving away as much free content without worrying about giving away too much. So wonderful group, Heroic Public Speaking, Michael Port, the quote from a very long time ago. By the way, he has one of the best with his wife, Amy Port. They have one of the best TED Talks I've ever seen. But he has a quote that that was, give away so much content, so much value. That's it. Give away so much value that you're afraid you gave too much, and then give more. And that was foundational, another foundational piece of how I thought about just give it all away, right? And the more I give away, the more clients I attract.
All right. Last but certainly not least, what's your guilty pleasure at the end of a long day?
I think probably streaming TV shows 5 or 6 hours at a time. Not every day, obviously. But next, yeah.
So we know what you'll be doing over the hopefully a little bit of holiday relaxation and unplugging.
I'm working through this holiday because I'm going on vacation after the holiday. So I'm working.
There you go. Where are you going?
I'm taking my twin boys and one of my closest friends and her twin kids to Universal.
Twinning all the way to Universal?
They're all freshmen in college. So we can't go to Great Wolf anymore, which was our really, so we're going to Universal.
Awesome. Congrats. It sounds like a blast.
All right, Brynne, this has been so much fun. So just give us kind of the quick rundown. Where can our listeners find you? What's the best way for them to engage with you?
Yeah, LinkedIn. I'm still the only Brynne Tillman. Making Sales Social is my podcast, and we've got lots of free content, really free, at linkedinlibrary.com.
Right, and we'll put links to all of that in the show notes. Brynne, thank you so much for joining us. If you have enjoyed this episode, please do like, share, subscribe to both ours and to Brynne's podcast. Make sure to check us out at othersideofsales.com, on Twitter at OSOS_pod, Instagram at OthersideSales, and of course on LinkedIn. Brynne, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for having us. And thank you, listeners, for joining us for another episode of The Other Side of Sales. We'll see you next time.